Now, for those of you who don't know me, this picture, I need to update it. I think that's a pre-COVID picture. Obviously now trying to get to see my hairdresser is a little bit harder now that everything is closed. I qualified in 2004 from Barts in the Royal London, or Queen Mary's as I call it now. After that, I went on to do my Masters in Prosthetic Dentistry. That was at the Eastman Dental Institute. Following on from that, because I am a bit of a lunatic, I went on to do another Masters in Implant Dentistry at King's. After that, I did a certificate in orthodontics and I got my Royal College qualification in 2016. Importantly for today's presentation, I did an executive MBA, which is a 2-year program at the Imperial College in London. We also train and teach dentists how to place and restore dental implants with my colleague Avik Dandapat, who may be joining us a bit later on. Here is, I'm just going to hit play just so you can see. We have a few videos in today's presentation. So this is my clinic in Southend-on-Sea. You can see I really like the colour purple. We went for a very sort of futuristic Iron Man type of profile for the practice. Seeing these pictures makes me a little bit sad because it's been about a month since I've taken out a tooth or sutured someone or put an implant in, and I'm sure, like all of you, we all miss doing clinical dentistry, but hopefully the time will come again where we can quite happily go back into our practices and help our patients. Moving on from there, just to show you some of my clinical work, a lot of my implant work is based around placing and restoring implants, especially in the anterior zones and the aesthetics. So here, this was a case for placing an upper left one tooth using a single Straumann implant with guided bone regeneration, a PRGF graft, which is made by using the blood factors, suturing everything closed, letting everything heal. I'm very lucky that we have an on-site laboratory and I have a very talented lab technician who makes me look good, making lovely temporary interim restorations such as this. And then moving forward to the final restorations, trying to appreciate the gingival contour that we are trying to emulate with a cement retained custom CAD/CAM implant restoration. So I am a dentist who does clinical work. I'm not a social media coach or just a social media advisor. I actually do clinical dental treatments, and by all means that is probably 80 to 90% of my work is implant dentistry. One little nice touch here that my technician did, he actually stained the zirconia. Sometimes zirconia can come up quite bright in the cosmetic cases, and we can go from this to a nice final result. And this image is 1 year later, and that's 1 year in function. We now have 3-year follow-ups, but as I said, this is not a clinical lecture. This is a lecture on social media. Is everybody still with me? Can I have some yeses in the chat? Fantastic. Lovely. Now, this book, Socialnomics by Eric Qualman, and this book is quite old. It came along a few years ago, but I think it's really, really relevant. If you want to develop your social media presence, this is definitely a book I would recommend you invest in. Now, Eric had a very good quote, which I think is relevant to everything now, which is we don't have a choice on whether we do social media. The question is how well we do it. So every business, and for all intents and purposes in this presentation, I will quantify dentistry as a business. Yes, it is a healthcare system, but for those of you who run dental practices, please also consider it as a business, especially since a lot of us are after business loans. So we are running businesses. Chaz, your book is going to get mentioned soon. Don't worry. So now, social media. Now, we will look at 2 different platforms for social media in this presentation, Facebook and Instagram. We have Twitter, we have LinkedIn, we have Pinterest, we have Google+, but I'm going to put those aside just for the length of the presentation. And I think Facebook and Instagram are the 2 most well-known ones. Now, why would we develop our practice, or why do we bother having a profile on social media? Number one is to build awareness so people know that you exist. How did it happen in the olden days? I say olden days, 80s, 70s. People would walk past your dental clinic and realize there's a dental practice there. Number two, they would look up your dental clinic on the yellow pages and they would get given recommendations by their friends to go and see Mr. Smith or Dr. Smith. He's very good. Those three areas of referral, those three areas of how patients find you still exist, they've just changed. So instead of the yellow pages, you have Google. Instead of word of mouth recommendations, you have online reviews. And instead of patients walking past your dental clinic, they come across it on social media. So things are essentially the same, but they've just changed for the digital age. To have a social media presence will give you some awareness, so you do exist. You can communicate authority because you are highly trained, respected medical healthcare practitioners. You can show authenticity. So in the UK, I know we have quite a lot of international visitors today. In the UK, we know that the media perhaps do not portray dental practices in the best of lights. So you can show authenticity that you actually care about your patients. And organizations like the DDA, some of the charitable webinars that have been going across have been helping so many dentists to help healthcare practitioners, hospitals, PPE, etc. So it shows authenticity that we do care. We're trying to encourage engagement from our patients. So your best ambassador for you and your practice will be your patient, and social media can help you do that very easily. And also in times like this, you can support and help your patients when they need you the most because they can't get in to see you. Let's look at some statistics for social media, and it is pretty amazing. Facebook, now this is from 2018. Facebook, over 2 billion users. Instagram, probably at 1 billion users now. Even LinkedIn, 500 million users. Social media is getting bigger and bigger and bigger by the day. Now, when I did my MBA, I looked at the interaction between social media and dentistry. I was really interested to see, was there any research looking at how dentists interact with their patients and how patients expect their dentist to interact with them. And interestingly, there was very little research back then in 2018 or 2017, 2018. There was some work done with medical doctors in hospital settings, but in terms of what was there for dentists was quite limited. So we designed and carried out a study. It was published in the Journal of Medical Internet Research in 2018, connecting with your dentist on Facebook, patients and dentists' attitudes towards social media usage in dentistry. Now, I'm going to go through with you some of the things we found in that research. We asked 1,000 members of the public, and we asked 1,000 dentists and dental care professionals what their thoughts were about social media in dentistry. Now, interestingly, 77% expected, now let's full screen this, shall we? 77% expected their dental practice to have a website. So having a dental website is expected by your patients. However, most of them didn't expect their dental practice to have a social media presence. To them, that wasn't something that they really thought about. What did they look for when they looked at a dental practice website? Qualifications was still number one on our list of things. Patients still sought out dentists with qualifications or extra qualifications. Positivity of reviews and referrals from friends and family, and either you love them or you hate them, industry awards still appear to carry some weight with patients and how they chose their dental practices. The social media websites which they used at the time, I think there was a bit of bias because most of the research was done through Facebook. So obviously almost everyone was on Facebook to get to my questionnaire for my research. But we found that over half of them were on Instagram. And where were dentists targeting? Not many dentists were targeting Instagram. Most were targeting Facebook. And I think things have changed a little bit now as to where I feel dentists should be targeting. We also looked at a few sidelines. The interesting one for me was how many patients had searched their healthcare practitioners or their dentists on Facebook. as in typed in their name on Facebook and found their profiles. I don't know, if we go back to the chat, as all the dentists who are listening, have any of you been contacted by your patients on social media before? So Shirin, yes. Gayatri, yes. Shirin, too often. Vishaya, so. Now, have these been your personal pages or your professional pages? I know some of you, it would be your personal. Now, we think that does blur the line a little bit, and I think the GDC does think that blurs the line a little bit. And it's research like this which shows us that a lot of patients will move forward. They will try and get hold of you to try and talk to you via social media. Incidentally, the biggest objection, so the biggest figure we had for objections of going to see the dentist wasn't actually injections, drilling or pain. These were second, third and fourth. The number one objection was the cost. Now, let's go to the next slide. The most popular social media networks. Facebook, number one. YouTube, number two. The numbers for YouTube, I think, are a little bit tricky because you don't register through YouTube, so you don't actually have a YouTube account to watch them. Although you can register if you wish, you can still view YouTube videos without actually holding an account. WhatsApp, which is owned by Facebook, is growing. Is it a social media network? I think it probably is. Probably classify it as its own little niche of a messenger system. Facebook Messenger, again, owned by Facebook as well. So we're sort of seeing a trend here. WeChat is in Asia, so that doesn't really apply to us. Instagram, 1 billion users, again, owned by Facebook. So we're beginning to see a trend. Now, I was very fortunate to be asked to, can you full screen just one slide at a time? It's hard to read the slide. Of course I can. So when I full screen, are you just seeing one slide, presumably, right? You're not seeing the before and the afters. Have you seen the next slide too? Oh, wow. Let's see if we can fix that for you, Kunal. I know you're very, very sensitive to these things, right? Let's try that. Lovely. Better? Good. Lovely. Now, so my good friend, Shaz, who I think is online, he had an excellent idea to write a book which tried to help dentists understand Instagram. Myself and a lot of colleagues have contributed to it. It is available, I think, still from Amazon, Shaz. And all the proceeds, all the profits go to the Wells on Wheels charity, which I'm very proud to be an ambassador for, helping provide water wheels to remote villages in India. So if we move forward to our Instagram, and they're all sold out, but more coming soon. Fantastic. Now, why do we want to have a presence on Instagram? Why? What is your reason to do it? Do you want to be Insta famous? Do you want to have a celebrity status? I think one of the few dentists who have managed to obtain a celebrity status is my very close friend Milad, who I think is probably listening. Now, Milad, who is an excellent dentist, is also a very good entertainer and a very good singer, and has managed to leverage that to his own message of positivity with dentistry involved. It has been a great beacon of positivity for the profession, but I think he's very unique in how he's managed to do it. I don't know how we could recreate that on a reproducible basis for a lot of people. However, Instagram, I think, is very useful in a tool for attracting patients. And it can be beneficial, especially for individual dentists who want to raise their profile. Now, the questions I will put to you is, can you do both? Can you have a private and a professional Instagram account? Who would run it? Do you need to do it yourself? And how much of your personal life do you really need to share? So if we go to personal versus professional, here is Milad online with us today. Hello. So if we move down, I have, and one of the reasons I get asked to talk about social media is I run 2 accounts. I run a personal account and I run a professional account. So one just for me and one as a dentist. If we look here, this is my personal account. And in here, there is nothing that says I'm a dentist. If we look here, this is my professional account. So here, everything says that I'm a dentist. Now let's increase our slideshow again. What are the differences? Number one, you can see here, it's not my actual name. So if a patient types my name into Instagram, which is becoming more and more common, they will come across my dental account before they come across my personal account. There's no mention of dentistry. So as far as the GDC are concerned, this account has got nothing to do with dentistry. And it only showcases my hobbies, my interests, which primarily revolve around cars and racing, to my own personal exploits. So this has nothing to do with dentistry. This is more for me. I can be who I want and not worried about getting into trouble with regulatory bodies, not worried about saying the wrong thing. There's nothing to do with dentistry. We do need to keep in mind that we have to act responsibly and within the realms of community standards for Instagram. And you can exhibit as much of your personal life as you so wish. This account does not make me any money.
I think it's just gone to a black screen for some reason.
No.
Oh, there you go.
Got it? Lovely. If that happens again, let me know. It might be where we're sharing the screens, perhaps. This account does not have any business or financial gain. The only reason I run that account is for my own satisfaction. Now, if we move over to my professional account, again, it says Nilesh Parmar on top. So if they type my name into a social media platform, it comes up straight away. Now, the key thing is to have a very clear bio and a picture so that when they do stumble across it, they know it's you. Because you could type in Nilesh Parmar and there might be 300-400 Nilesh Parmars on there. At least if you make it very clear that you're a dentist or a dental professional, they know straight away who you are. Stories are a very useful tool. So as you can see here, a story is essentially a collection of videos or still images that you can put together, appearing one after another to tell a story per se. Now, in Instagram, you can use that to make a fantastic before and after or an experience journey from a patient's perspective. And I'll show you that now. A practice or a dental professional who does that very, very well. The other issue is, do you want your content to be aimed at dentists, or do you want your content to be aimed at the public, or do you want it to be aimed at both? Now, I started out with my content being aimed at the public, but being an implant surgeon, most of my stuff involves blood. My before and afters involve blood, and it involves things which patients may not want to see. Indeed, it may put patients off actually having the work done. So I changed my stance, because we also work on a referral basis, to target other dental healthcare professionals to work on the referral side of things. And that seems to work very well in my particular case. The stories have had very, very good user engagement. And this is the end of a story where we went through an entire process of how we would restore a upper full set of teeth with implants. And you can see that we had at the time about 700 people looking or listening or watching the story. And that will increase over time as more and more people click on it. Now, in order for me to get 700 to 800 dentists into a lecture theatre would involve a lot of logistics, a lot of costing, a lot of coffee, and a lot of catering, which we don't really have the facility to do. So from my perspective, it is a fantastic free platform to exhibit what we do. Now, coming back to the questions we asked previously, can you do both? Who's going to do it? Do you need to do it yourself? And how much of your private life do you need to share? Yes, you could do it. You could do both. You could have personal and professional content on one social media page. Indeed, some people do manage to do it well. It pretty much depends how much of yourself you want to share. I've tried quite a few online marketing experts as to who would do it. Now, nobody knows your patients and your business better than you do. So the best person to do this is either you or a member of your staff, definitely. If that cannot happen, if you do not have the time to do it, or if you'd like some help, there are a few individuals who are good at social media, who understand social media. In my practice Instagram account, which I do not have time to run, a friend of mine, Chelsea Stewart, who runs Chelsea PMP, she runs my Parmar Dental Practice account and runs it very well because she knows me and knows the sort of content which I wish to post. So in certain instances, it can work quite well. How much of yourself must you share? That's always a very, very interesting thing. I find that the younger dentists will share a lot more, perhaps too much, and the older dentists perhaps sort of miss the boat as to what is relevant or what is interesting or what is engaging for people to look at. It's all down to your personal tastes. Some accounts do very well at attracting new patients. I think they do it really well. This is actually Kunal's account. Now, there is a video here. I'm not sure if the video will play. Let's see.
Nilesh, unfortunately.
Then you'll have to go over to his Instagram page and look at his account. He actually manages to get the balance between personal content and professional content very, very well. Because his work is mainly cosmetics, there's a lot of Invisalign and a lot of composite recontouring. They show a lot of before and afters, which research has shown that patients really, really like to see before and after. They don't like to see what goes in between. They like to see the before and they like to see the after. Now, if you want to develop that even further, where you can see there is this little patient say icon there. We can run the video here. Okay. I think that's better. That works, doesn't it? Can you guys see the video rolling? Yeah, good. So here you can just see a lot of before and afters for patients. Obviously, you'll have a consent process to be able to share this on your social media accounts with your patients. And if you look at the area where he says patients say, it's got great videos showing the team, showing teamwork, and also showing testimonials from patients as to how much this has helped them, how it's changed their lives. That emotional before and after reveal works very, very, very well, especially for this age demographic. It works exceptionally well. Other accounts don't do it as well. So I just randomly typed in dentist London and came across this social media account. Now, you can see the name. I've obviously blocked out the name, but the name was just very generic. There was very little information. It just said dental practice. And that was it. Now, if you look at their actual posts, it's a random profile picture. So that's a piece of clip art, nothing personal, nothing tailored to the actual dental practice. And they have no before and afters, nothing to let you know what the dentists are like. Patients are always trying to humanize their dentists. They're all scared of us. They actually want to see who we are, what we do, which is why so many of them tend to stalk us on social media. They want to humanize the dentist. If you're just posting memes and random content, and I would hazard a guess this was done by a marketing agency which doesn't understand dentistry very well, you won't get any user engagement whatsoever. If you look here, there's very few followers and very few user engagement. If you look at this before and after of Catherine Zeta-Jones, which gets posted so much, I feel really sorry for Catherine Zeta-Jones. This before and after just happens all the time. And they've only had 6 likes with 1 million hashtags, which we wouldn't really do anymore. And then you think, why even bother? It's probably doing your brand more damage than good. Now we have some Instagram heavyweights, or some pages which do it very, very well. We look firstly, Milad, who is still with us, I think. Milad aims his page at the public generally. Dentists and dental care professionals also love him, but his page is applicable to everyone because humor works across the board. I like the Love Island 2020 picture there, Milad. Number 2 is Jason. This is Bloody Tooth Guy from New York. Now, he is perhaps one of the most gifted oral surgeons I've ever seen. And he has a member of staff who just videos all of his work, especially the oral surgery, and posts it on Instagram. And for somebody like me, this is one of my favorite accounts. because he shows you exactly how he does it, when he does it, and his suturing technique is amazing. But this is primarily aimed at other healthcare professionals. Now, lastly, if we look at Dr. Appa, who's also very, very, very well known, his, I think, is aimed at everyone. So you've got Milad, who's aiming at the public. You've got Bloody Tooth Guy, who's aiming at the profession specifically, and Dr. Appa, who is doing a bit of both, because he has primarily before and afters, but also some lifestyle content on his social media pages as well. And it's up to you to decide which one of these areas do you want your social media to fit into. Do you want it aimed at your patients? Do you want it aimed at other professionals? Or do you want to undertake the tricky task of doing both? I would always recommend personal and private profiles. For me, that works very good, very well. GDC guidelines, please read them. When I did my social media thesis, the GDC hadn't really published social media guidance, and now it has come out, and it's pretty much a very GDC type of document, which basically says to you, behave yourself, don't do anything stupid. We're not going to tell you what you can and cannot do, but rest assured, based upon this document, if we do feel you've done something wrong, we will come down on you like a ton of bricks. And that's pretty much what they're saying. So please be careful as to what you put on social media. There has been a few dentists who've got into trouble, who've got very close to being struck off because of some of their comments on Facebook. And there has been, I think, 3 doctors in the UK recently who've been struck off due to things they've put on their social media. Lastly, be original with whatever content you do. It needs to be relevant to you, and try and use the unique selling point of your dental practice. Now, that's Instagram covered. Any questions for Instagram before we move on to Facebook? Everybody's typing. All good, lovely, right. So, how do you attract new followers from public accounts? Good question. So, I think stories work very well. You can do paid promotions on your Instagram post if you wish. And just having original and interesting content. A lot of people do giveaways, and giveaways work very well on Instagram, and that can help generate new followers as well. The use of hashtags, I would ignore the use of hashtags for now. We don't really tend to use hashtags very much anymore. What that used to do is when you searched for something, so let's say you search for implants. If you had hashtagged a post with hashtag implants after it, that would have helped the search algorithm figure out that, right, this post has got something to do with implants. Now, as the search algorithms have improved, the usage of hashtag isn't really necessary. You can do a few, but I wouldn't really get too pent up on hashtags. You actually have a chapter on hashtags in the book. But to be honest, I would leave hashtags out for the time being. Try and grow your social media organically. But also use your physical dental practice. So when you communicate with patients, on all my emails, I have my social media handles on the bottom of it. And you find that patients will follow you from that. You can also try and encourage your patients to follow you on social media. You can have the links to your social media in your dental practices. You can have free Wi-Fi, but the only way they get the free Wi-Fi is if they follow you through social media. There's all these little tips and tricks that you can do to try and help develop your user profile or user base. Now, we've got some really cool information from Facebook. Some of it is just staggering. So when this clip art was made, we had almost 1.4 billion users of Facebook. The daily active users was 864 million. Bear in mind the population of the UK is just below 70 million. We have 4.5 billion updates per week on Facebook, and you compare that to the world population of 6.7 billion people. So it's amazing the amount of traffic that Facebook gets through. When you compare Facebook to Instagram, the interesting thing is the presence of brand and brand advertising on Facebook versus Instagram. And now we're finding that Facebook users use it to interact and communicate with their colleagues, with their friends. They don't really accept brand advertising on Facebook as well. However, on Instagram, they tend to accept brand advertising a lot better, because I think you can make very interesting content on Instagram. As a content creator, I think Instagram works a lot better than Facebook does. I also think there's a bit of mistrust of Facebook due to people sharing fake news, incorrect news articles, and people selling all sorts of random things on Facebook, which has meant it's not as well trusted. Now, what's the relevance for Facebook in marketing for the dental industry, in my opinion? Consent form. Yeah, we do. If you contact me later on, I'll send you the consent form for full shots. Also, the BACD have a very good consent form for that as well. Relevance in B2C, which is business to consumer marketing, so us marketing directly to patients. Do I still think it's relevant? I think it has limited relevance at the moment, and the reasons why are Facebook marketing isn't cheap. If you're trying to pay for Facebook marketing, you're in competition with a lot of big brands, and once you do appear on somebody's newsfeed, chances are they're going to scroll right past you, so the user engagement is quite poor. You would need to create quite dynamic content in a sea of really good content as you're scrolling through your Facebook. Now think, how many times have you clicked on an advert on Facebook? Not many of us have done. Maybe recently, due to the Corona-19 epidemic, I think I've clicked on this mobile phone case that has an ultraviolet light on it, which I thought was quite a cool idea. But aside from that, it's very limited as to what you click on Facebook. The algorithms are now tending to favor user-generated content. So Facebook changed all of its algorithms to try and say, right, let's get people's content on there, on the user feeds, as opposed to content generated by brands. They wanted it to become less advertising based and more user interaction, which was why Facebook was originally made. We're getting fewer users on Facebook. They are losing sight. The young people, do I still consider myself as being young? But let's say those in below the 30s, 20s, teenagers, very few of them tend to use Facebook anymore. They all use Instagram, TikTok, other social media platforms. Interestingly, almost a third of Facebook users think that branded advertising should be removed from it. So it makes it very hard for you to get good engagement or interaction with your patients if they actually don't think you should be there in the first place. The return of investment for dental practices is limited. It costs you nothing to have a presence, so to actually make a dental Facebook page is free. And I think that's useful because it's your own patients who will seek that out. For our Facebook page, it's mainly our existing patients or local patients who have inquiries. It almost works as a reception email inbox, so to speak, and that seems to work quite well. Are boosted posts more preferential than ads? Adam, I don't know the honest answer to that. I think if you boost a post, it depends how much you boost it for and how much you're willing to pay. I think you can actually pay quite a lot to boost a post so it turns up in the news feed, whereas the adverts used to be on the peripheries, on the sides. But you are in competition with some very big brands for the same space. So let's say my practice, Parmar Dental, is trying to advertise on one little area here. You find that Nike or Amazon are trying to advertise in that same little area there. So in terms of how much you're going to spend to get noticed, it's a hell of a lot compared to other avenues that you could use. Now, what I think Facebook is very good for is actual dental groups. Why? Because as dentists, it can be quite a lonely profession. And in our own development of Facebook groups, indeed, there are so many available now. I only mentioned this one because this is the one that I'm involved with. We have so many members that dentists post all the time on dental Facebook groups. I think it's great because it can be a lonely profession and it can help build camaraderie with other dentists. You can get immediate support and information from colleagues. One of the stories which will always stick with me was when a young dentist put a picture up of a patient who had a lesion on the side of their tongue. Didn't think anything of it, thought it was just trauma. That picture was picked up by one of the oral surgeons on the group, who private messaged the dentist and said, I think this is something nasty, please get the patient in. The young dentist got the patient in the next day and referred them to oncology at the local teaching hospital, and a diagnosis of carcinoma was made. So I really like the fact that we can get support and information from our colleagues almost instantly through social media, which I never had when I was starting out. If I needed to figure out what a lesion was, I had to look it up on an Oxford Handbook University Press textbook, look at the pictures, see, look, that kind of looks like that, and then make a diagnosis based on that. Whereas now you can access a hive mind of over 16,000 dentists within 5 minutes. I think it's fantastic. It's also helped dentists develop new interests. Now you'll know now that there is a Facebook group for everything. There is a Facebook group for dentistry. There's one for marketing. We have a digital Facebook group. Adam had to mention you there. We have a Facebook group for cooking, Facebook group for baking, one for TV, one for film, one for watches, one for cars. And non-dentists are amazed when I tell them how many different Facebook groups actually exist for dentists. I think we're very unique as a profession to do that. If we look at some of the analytics that we've had, if you want to know just how many dentists interact with a Facebook group, if we take our Facebook group in the last 60 days, if you look at the number of posts in 60 days, we've had 5,831 new posts, and we've had 76,000 comments. It's over 1,000 comments a day, and 254,000 reactions in the last 60 days. Now, the main reason this has skyrocketed so much, we've had over 300% of interactions and dentists on Facebook, is primarily due to this. It's due to the Corona-19 pandemic, which we are all experiencing at the moment. Now, David Staples, who you can look up, he's a very wise CEO, and his quote, which I really liked, was, "I'm sure we'd appreciate that these are extraordinary times, and that such times call for extraordinary measures if we are to remain relevant, effective, and also to be seen to be so by our membership and the world at large." And I think if we relate this to dentistry, there's some key messages as to what we need to do for our patients using our social media pathways. Before we go forward, I think we need to understand that, like myself and like all of you, we've not been able to pick up a dental drill, not been able to see a patient for now 4 weeks, I think it is. And for a lot of us, it's been difficult. We've got patients phoning us up saying they have clinical problems, which we are giving them antibiotics for, etc., where we realistically know we need to actually see the patient in order to help them. But everyone is on lockdown. Now, if we look at the numbers of lockdown, it is staggering. India had a complete lockdown of 1.3 billion people. China, 700 million. The US, the UK. Now, in total, if you add up all of the numbers of how many people are staying at home, 2.6 billion people in the world, 2.6 billion people are now staying at home. So a third of the human population are under lockdown. They are not going outside. Now, what has that resulted in? Facebook safe. Sam, that's a really interesting question. So one of the things we've always put on all of the dental Facebook groups is, and I've always said it and I repeat it time and time again, is that anything you post on social media can be accessed by anyone. So do not post anything on social media which you would not want on the front cover of your local newspaper, because it is accessible to anyone. No dental Facebook group is secure, and nothing is secure anymore. Even WhatsApp is being listened to by Facebook. You do an experiment and just start typing Dyson Hoover on your WhatsApp messages, and then wait about an hour and then scroll through Facebook, and you'll start to see adverts for Dyson Hoovers. If you just phone somebody and just talk about a Dyson Hoover and then scroll through Facebook, you will see adverts for a Dyson Hoover. And it's quite shocking sometimes. I never believed it until I tried it. So For younger dentists, I'd say post whatever you want. Always hide the patient's identity. You can ask the patient for permission if you wish, but always hide their identity. I never show their face on my posts unless I've got explicit consent. Because one thing is the patient can withdraw that consent later on. Adam, that's a bit scary, isn't it? You can withdraw that, the patient can withdraw the consent for you using their pictures, but once you've uploaded it to Facebook, Instagram, any other form of social media, they then own the picture, so they can use it as they want. Now, if it starts to get used on adverts, which aren't controllable by you, and your patient sees it, then I think that could get you into a little bit of trouble. However, if you're just showing their teeth, then I think you're okay. If you're showing their face as a before and after on Instagram and you've got explicit consent, then I think you're okay, but I'd be very careful with what you do share on Facebook groups. Coming back, I think the issues where we've had the GDC monitoring on our Facebook page, yes, we know that the GDC are on there, we know that Dental Protection are on there, DDU are on there, we also know that our lovely Chief Dental Officer is on there as well. So just be careful what you post. Does that help, Sam? So please ask questions, but just be careful as to what you post. Right. Where was I? Adam, how long have I got? We're finishing at 6, right?
That'd be great.
Yeah. Cool, lovely. Just onto the last few slides. So when we look at, you've had a third of the human population under lockdown. So a third of the human population are sitting at home. And I think that was, if I remember correctly, the actual population of the world during World War II. Now, what have we all been doing whilst we've been stuck at home? Now, TV usage has gone up by 40 to 70%. Everybody's watching TV. Some people have been doing CPD a lot. You know who you are. Streaming services have gone up 67%. The prevalence of dental webinars have gone up by about 4,000%. I think we are seeing a huge rise in dental webinars because of it. Live streams on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram have gone up through the roof. And that shows that as a population, we crave social interaction. But we've not been seeing loads more advertising by brands. Now, why? A, because we can't go out to buy anything. B, everyone is unsure about what's going to happen in the future. Are we going to have a job? Are we going to have an income? You only have to look at some of the dental groups as to how worried everyone is. And lastly, we've got people dying. We've got 1,000 people a day dying in the UK. So is now the time to advertise that new Hoover? Is now the time to advertise a new makeup tutorial? No, now's not the time to do that now. That also translates to dentistry. In my opinion, now is not the time to be trying to sell Invisalign. Now is not the time for me to be selling implants. Now is the time just to tell your patients that you're still there, maintain the connection. And I think a lot of social media accounts have been doing this very well by just reassuring their patients and just giving them tips and tricks on prevention at home. So toothbrushing techniques, reminding people that, right, we're all at home, we're all eating a lot of junk. The summer body is gone. We've now got a quarantine body, but please be careful as to how much sugar you consume. I think that's a good message for dentists to put across. Post-corona, what do I think is going to happen? Because I get asked this quite a lot. Now, number one is dental practices, I think, will have to up their game in our cleanliness, especially in our waiting room in public areas. We need to feel and look exceptionally clean. Surgeries will need to look exceptionally clean. And patients are going to start becoming very, very clued up on things. Are we going to test our staff and our patients? If the test for corona is a PCR test, so it's only cost about 6 to 7 quid under normal conditions. So are we going to get to a stage where we test our patients before we treat them on the consultation? It's just a little drop of blood and it takes 15 minutes to do. So mandatory testing, is that something that will come about? Are we going to have COVID certified disinfection protocols? Wipes have already been asked to test a new type of wipe, which is guaranteed to kill COVID-19 as well. I think the dental manufacturers will start to have new products which will be aimed at this sort of area, the virucidal area. PPE, such as the ones that the DDA are making, the aerosol procedures, what kind of devices will we have to help reduce aerosol procedures? I've seen some amazing ideas as to how we can reduce aerosol production during dental drilling, during dental treatments. One thing that I've been approached by a company is they have a very strong antiviral virucidal agent that goes into the actual water bottle, so that as the aerosol is produced, the aerosol itself will help to kill off or neutralize the bacteria, but everything needs testing. We don't know what works, we don't know what will work because it's such a new virus. Most importantly, I think trust and reassurance to our patients to say to them, look, we can look after your teeth, you do not need to be scared, you won't get infected with corona when you come and see us because of X, Y, and Z. So we need to think about how can we corona-proof our practices. And lastly, at some point in the future, a vaccine is what we're all after, so we can get back to normal life. We can start complaining about things that we used to complain about instead of being stuck at home watching Netflix all of the time. I now think I've watched all the Netflix. I think I've watched all of Netflix. Literally everything is done by me. Here we are. So that's before quarantine. That's after quarantine. Do we think FFP3 masks will be mandatory? Now, Costa, have you worn an FFP3 mask? I wore one for half a day before they shut the dental clinics down, and I saw a few emergencies to take teeth out. And I found it difficult to breathe. I couldn't put my loops on because of the bridge of the nose. And it left quite a nice mark around because it has to be quite airtight. Now, I think in the current design of FFP3 masks, I don't think they are conducive to high-end dentistry. I am certain that the mask manufacturers will start to develop much more lightweight and comfortable masks. I have a friend who works for Johnson & Johnson, and this is something that they're working on right now. Sorry, not Johnson, Kimberly-Clark, to try and make much more comfortable but much more effective masks. So I'm hoping in the future we'll have a much more comfortable type of mask to wear, which will give us the protection of a FFP3 or an N95. But for at the moment, no, it doesn't exist. But I would hope in the future that as the technology develops, I think we will start to see something that we could probably wear without too much trouble. Remember, when my dad was doing dentistry, they didn't wear a mask, they didn't wear gloves. What moved them on to wearing masks and gloves was hepatitis and HIV. So the industry had to adapt to it. And now that we've got this disease or this virus, the industry will adapt. Again, don't underestimate human ingenuity. I have no doubt that we will overcome and we will adjust our working practices to it. And I think it's up to us to try and experiment and see what works best or what's most comfortable for you. So definitely, I think we'll see something. And if that's all the questions, or any other questions that anyone has to answer, that is actually my talk on social media finished. I'm doing one more Instagram live tomorrow, talking about all things implant and restorative. But let's have a look, see what questions we have. The virus killer air sterilizer. Yeah, I've seen that on a few posts recently, and have been contacted by another manufacturer. I don't know is the honest answer. Wouldn't it be great if we could just have a unit in the corner of the surgery which will take care of all of the aerosols and clean any of the bacteria and any of the viruses in the surgery. We've also had practices that have negative air pressure as well. Or if you look at my clinic here, you can see I've actually got an air conditioning unit blowing right onto the patient and on to me. So is this going to have to go? Am I going to have to get an air conditioning unit with a HEPA filter? Yeah, there's loads of adjustments that I think we will need to make in the future. And the issue is that it's going to be cost. Who's going to pay for everything?
Glad I spent 20 grand a couple of years ago on all the aircon units then.
Sorry, say that again, Adam?
So glad I spent 20 grand on all the aircon units a couple of years ago.
I know. Well, I'm hoping there'll just be a little filter that sticks onto the front of it or something. But I was looking at the NHS budget, and the overall NHS budget is 132 billion pounds. The dental budget is about 3 billion. So we're really, really small in the big scheme of things. Are we going to get more money to help pay for all of these advances, or to pay for the £2,000 air sterilising unit in the corner? I don't know. I think it will be something which practice owners and PCTs and MPs and the Treasury would have to discuss, but I doubt it. I think it'll be up to us to advance our dental clinics so that they're safe for us and for our patients.
Thanks very much for a great webinar, Nilesh. Really eye-opening a few things, actually, and I think I need to go and get that book from Shaz as well. Especially the new clinic in London. So,
yeah, definitely.
The other thing I was going to say is, all of this lecture and as well as the previous lectures, all of them are going to be obviously going up on the idda.org website for everybody to be able to just watch on demand. But the main thing is thanks very much to Nilesh and all speakers for giving up the time to come and help you guys learn while we're all off. And like Nilesh said, if you can donate, please do. Obviously, times aren't the best of times to be throwing money around the place, but it is much appreciated. It goes 100% to the front line. So thank you, everybody, and we will let you go. You have a good evening. Okay, Nilesh.
Thank you very much. Bye, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The donation, Adam, how do they donate?
Oh, sorry. www.3dprintcovid19.com, and we put the link all over the place everywhere as well. So.
Okay, great. Lovely.
All right. Cheers, Nilesh. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye, guys.